Yeah, welcome back everybody. It's another Saturday night here in Appalachia. Cloudy Saturday night. Very beautiful, very peaceful. I wanted to continue the discussion I had last week about archetypes and shadows, facing our shadows and our emotions. So I wrote a post today about something that happened back almost 5 years ago, June 2019. That was my fire over here, so I can't get into the picture right now, but that's okay. Do a little fire ceremony here on a Saturday night. But about 5 years ago, something happened in my professional life that was very unexpected, but very helpful. And that is, I was let go very abruptly one Friday afternoon in June, and 8 days later I found myself down in Costa Rica preparing to do the plant medicine ayahuasca for the first time. Now I'm going to do a whole series of videos about those, what ended up being 3 trips to Costa Rica that year. But that first trip was very eventful because Monday night, they have 4 ceremonies, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Monday night, right from the beginning, some things happened that basically just scared the shit out of me. 3 things in particular that I'll describe later, but I was forced to face a lot of fear right from the beginning of the ceremony Monday night. By Friday morning, so Tuesday I ended up skipping the ceremony because of that, and Wednesday and Thursday I went, but I didn't push myself. I didn't do a lot of the plant medicine. In fact, I did very little. Basically, in archetypal terms, the coward had taken over. And then something happened during the ceremony Thursday night that really was a slap in the face that I needed. And Friday morning I was pissed at myself for not confronting the fears. And I immediately, Friday morning, I grabbed one of the young ladies that worked there, and I bought another week. I didn't stay. I went home because I had travel plans to go to Ireland a few days later. But I returned 4 weeks later. And what I did was I took that anger that I had accumulated on that Thursday night, Friday morning, that anger at myself, very disappointed in myself for wasting the opportunity. That's what it felt like at the time. But I carried that anger with me for 4 weeks in a very positive way. And what I recalled during that time was something I learned from a book, a couple of books, but basically the book Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins. I believe he's recently passed away a few years ago. Some brilliant books, but Power versus Force introduced me to what he called the map of consciousness. And so what he was doing was taking and muscle testing emotions. He was muscle testing everything. Muscle tested the U.S. Constitution and the Bible and all kinds of stuff. Fascinating story. But he muscle tested emotions, and the lowest vibrating emotion was the emotion of shame, which makes sense. We're a social being. To shame us out of the group is very difficult emotionally. Shame us out of the family. It's actually a great scene in the movie Witness with Harrison Ford and Kelly McGillis, when Kelly McGillis is falling for Harrison Ford, and her father says to her that if she goes off and has a relationship with him because he's not Amish, that he will not be able to sit at table with her. That is a form of shame. And there was a shame culture where we predominantly have a punishment culture right now. But shame was at the low end of the spectrum. Peace, love, and joy are at the top of the spectrum. And so going from shame, I always remembered the big ones for me were from shame, guilt, and despair. There's fear, which we have a lot of in this society. I don't call it fear porn. That's all you got to do is turn on the television, right? But there's fear. And then moving up from fear, we get to things like anger, pride, and courage. And courage is, the pride to courage is where we cross the boundary, according to Dr. David Hawkins. So I remembered this, and he said that you couldn't jump, like you can't go from fear to love. You got to walk up this like a staircase and process through these emotions. So I'm going to stop the video here, and I'm going to put a visual up of the map of consciousness and just talk through it for just a minute. And then I'm going to come back and talk about how I applied it. Okay, I'll be right back. So here is a graphic of the map of consciousness as developed by Dr. David Hawkins. What I want to focus on for the sake of this conversation are the first two columns. The first one called the name of level, and the second column called the energetic log. He used a logarithmic scale, a logarithmic numeric scale, to measure the vibrational level of each of these emotions. So as you can see at the bottom left-hand corner, we see shame has a score of 20. And we go to guilt and apathy and grief, and then to fear, which is at 100. And then as we move up from fear to desire, to anger, to pride, to courage, courage is 200. And you notice there's a red line there because you're transitioning from this survival paradigm into reason and integrity, as it's called. And then as we crawl up the scale up to reason and love, there's another red line, and we go to the spiritual paradigm. So love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. He actually associated some of the testing. He had certain names that fit into these different areas. And enlightenment, it was the name at the top was actually Jesus. But he also did Buddha and Muhammad and many others. You can find all this out in the book or out on the internet. Some of his YouTube videos are really good. But what I wanted to just show here is what this looked like in a visual sense, going from fear to anger to courage, because that is what I was doing during this period back in June and July of 2019. So now I'm going to return to the video. Enjoy. Okay, so now that you've seen the map of consciousness and the visual, what I remembered was that I had to walk up that staircase from fear to anger to courage. It was something that resonated with me, and that's what I applied. So for that month in between trips to Costa Rica, late June, late July 2019, I held on to this anger, and I said, I'm going to go back. I'm going to push through this fear. And I arrived in July 2019, and Monday night I pushed through the fear, because I took that anger and I pushed through to courage, and it worked. It worked so well. I had 4 wonderful ceremonies that week. Just had a great time. But I also got guided to go back one more time. And I ended up buying another week, going back in December at Christmas time, 2019. And having another extraordinary week and meeting someone who would change my life. And all of that happened because I was able to transform fear into anger and then into courage. And we all need to learn how to do that. We need to learn how to work with these emotions and take these low vibrating emotions and turn them into the higher vibrating emotions by walking up this ladder. Whatever way you can do that. You know, when it's the low vibrations like shame and grief and despair and depression and sadness, fear and anxiety. Be able to take those, transform them. The Buddhists have a practice called Tonglen, which I've used. It's breathe in the fear, breathe out the love. Breathe in the fear, breathe out the love. Transform that emotion. Don't try to block it. Blocking emotions takes a lot of energy. What we want to do is just transform it. Fluid. Just breathe it in, breathe out the love. And if we can remember to do that, we can achieve that emotional regulation that I have learned late in life, better late than never, that emotional regulation that is so important to day-to-day living, and especially to relationships. And that means relationships with everybody, whether it's cashiers at the grocery store or the people who are closest to you, and especially men. Emotional regulation, I believe, is one of the single most important things we can learn. So if we can learn to transform these emotions, these low-level emotions, especially when anger is on the driving us to the dark side, to do something foolish or to lash out at somebody, that's where we really want to grab a hold of ourselves, breathe, and transform that anger and regulate that emotion. And it takes practice. We'll never be perfect, but we'll be as perfect as we can get, as long as we practice it every day. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hope it was helpful. It's helpful for me to talk about these things, to share them with people. I shared this in my men's group on Facebook today. I shared this in another group. And we'll just keep sharing these ideas, and hope if it helps one person, then that's good. Because that means it's helping two, because it's helping me. All right? So have a wonderful Saturday night. Wherever you are, know that you are loved and you are love. Aho.